Hello there, and a very warm welcome to another edition of The Beam. I am Victor Matthias. Now, since the outbreak of the coronavirus, there have been concerted efforts from various sectors and experts to help flatten the curve and ultimately find a cure to the virus. These efforts range from health practitioners, the tech ecosystem, and also the general public. So today on the program, we will be speaking to a medical expert in one of the countries that are said to have flattened the curve. We will also be looking at efforts being made by Nigerians to develop applications that will help in fighting the spread of the virus and also visit the impact of fake news in the fight against the virus as well. But before we do all of that, let's take a look at what made the trending topics in Nigeria's social cyberspace in the past week.
Nigeria recorded its first high-profile COVID-19 death as the chief of staff to the president Abba Kyari passed away due to COVID-19 complications. Nigerians home and abroad paid glowing tributes to him and also expressed worry over the non-compliance of social distancing during the burial and poor disposal of the personal protective equipment by an official who participated in the burial of the late chief of staff. With the NCDC recording its highest number of COVID-19 cases since recording the index case, Lagos, with the highest of the day, 70, became the talk of tweeps as they further urged each other to maintain social distancing, wash their hands, maintain personal hygiene, and obey the stay-at-home directive.
Well, there you go. Those were the trends in the past week. But as you're watching from anywhere around the world, you can be part of the program from wherever you are. Again, just tweet at us using the hashtags at ChannelsBeam as well as coronavirus. And you can also send your tweets to us at Channels TV, at ChannelsBeam, as well as at Victor_MBIDI. Well, let's get the program started now. Ireland has successfully flattened the curve of coronavirus transmission and no longer expects a peak in infections. The Chief Medical Officer, Tony Holohan, who made this known, further said analysis shows that the reproductive part of the virus, which is the number of people a confirmed case typically spreads to, is now below 1. Ireland, like many other countries, including Nigeria, had been bracing for a surge in cases where transmission would peak and hospitals become overrun with patients. But joining us now to look at how Nigeria can borrow leaf from is Dr. Oluwaseun Omoseyin. He is a medical registrar in the Republic of Ireland. Well, it's a pleasure to have you on the program today.
Thank you, Victor, for having me on the program.
Of course, you're welcome. Well, so let's begin with your analysis of what is on ground in Ireland.
Basically, I think it's first important to note that Ireland would be a country with about 4.8 million people and would have about 15,000 cases at the moment and with about 600 reported COVID-related cases at the moment. So if you look at that, you understand that it's actually a problem. The health minister recently said that he thinks, and that word is very important to keep, he thinks that Ireland has flattened the curve because nothing is cast in stone. It's an ongoing process. It's something that we're checking what happens every day just to see. And I think it's also important to actually look into what he means by flatten the curve. It's a gradual increase. That's what happens. And then there's a plateau. Usually there may be spikes, there may not be spikes, but we hope that there's no spike. And what happens after that is there's a descent after that. So we're hoping that there's no spike. We're hoping it keeps the way it is, but it doesn't mean that we're still not having cases. It doesn't mean that anything is cast in stone, basically.
All right. So what are global experts doing, in terms of, maybe researches and maybe meetings, trying to find a lasting solution to this pandemic?
All right. Across the world, there are meetings going on every day. There are research is going on. I was actually opportune to have been on a webinar about 2, 3 days ago, which had doctors from all over the world, China, UK, the US, and the research is going on. One of the things we're trying to do is vaccination, and that's very important. At the moment, there is no vaccine, but we're looking at another maybe 12 months to 18 months, and hopefully there are vaccines coming into place for that. Also, the universal protocol, everyone is following the WHO universal protocol, which should be social distancing, washing your hands, avoiding and all that. Treatment is very important. There is no standard regimen for treatment at the moment, but we're looking into all sorts of medications. Depends on where you are. People are using different regimens, but a lot of people will be talking about hydrochloroquine, which is commonly talked about now. Some antivirals, depending on what is going on, immune boosters, antibiotics, depending on what happens, because it's a viral infection, but then it affects your immunity. So you may need to use antibiotics if there is an infection, a bacterial infection on that. So there are lots of things going on, researches every day, but hopefully things get better. One of the things that is important that I have noted from having spoken, like speaking to everyone, is that this is not going to be a sprint. It's a marathon, which means that there'll be phases that we're going to meet and challenges along the way. But hopefully the world would conquer this.
Well, the question is, how soon will the world conquer this?
That's a question that no one can answer. That's the truth. It depends on how much we work together, because it's not just the frontliners, it's not just the government, it's also the people, it's everyone. It depends on how much we come together as a team to work on coping with this, which means that if they tell you stay at home, please stay at home except it's necessary for you to go out. If you're sick, make sure you contact the hospital in time. Make sure when you get to the hospital, you give them the right information. All that is important. And so it's everybody working together to get to the answer as soon as we can. But there is no timeline, to be honest.
All right, very well. I have to say thank you. Hopefully that time will be sooner than we expect or sooner than we think. Hopefully you and your colleagues around the world would find a vaccine and also ultimately find a cure. And also, like you said, this thing lies on everybody, so everybody needs to play his own part in terms of trying to curb the spread and also just eradicate it totally. But I have to say thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much once again, Victor, for having me here. And just one last thing to say is that everyone should be each other's brother's keeper. We're going to have social distancing, but let's try not to socially isolate everyone, please. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks again.